Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the 2019 SFSP Potential New Sponsor Training. This is part 2, so hopefully everyone listened to part 1. I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping things first. If you want to print or save the presentation slides, you can go to File at the top left of your screen, and then you're going to select Transfer. After that, you're going to click on the file that appears in the file transfer screen and select Download to open up the zipped file, and then you should be able to print or save the file to your computer. I know I said in the last one that we were going to send out our Survey Monkey. We're just going to wait until after today, and then we'll get that out to you this week. Due to the number of attendees, we have everyone has been muted upon entry. If you want to ask a question, you can do that anytime by entering it into the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. General questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. If you have questions specific to your program, please call our office and speak with a program representative. After the presentation is concluded, it's important that you don't exit out of the WebEx browser, because this will simultaneously disconnect you from the teleconference. So if you're accidentally disconnected, just log back into WebEx and rejoin the teleconference. Let's see. And as I said before, hopefully you attended part 1 and part 2. This training is mandatory. Attendance at both sessions is required. There's a lot to learn about the Summer Food Service Program. There's a lot of information in these webinars. We understand it's probably overwhelming. You're more than welcome to attend one of our in-person trainings as well to gain more information, meet the SFSP representatives, and we can always answer any organization-specific questions that you might have. Okay, so we're going to get started. In this section, we're going to cover site types, methods to obtain meals, and meal service requirements. So just as a review from part 1, a site is the location where children actually eat their meals. Some examples of where sites could be located are school, playground, park, rec center, YMCAs, libraries, or low-income housing. Site responsibilities include serving meals to all eligible children 18 years of age and under, serving meals that meet the minimum meal pattern requirements, providing adequate supervision during the meal service, ensuring that children eat all meals on site, maintain and submit promptly such reports and records that the sponsor requires, report to the sponsor any changes in the number of meals required as attendance fluctuates, report any other problems regarding the meal services, comply with civil rights laws and regulations, adhere to local health and sanitation regulations, and attend sponsors' training sessions. There are 3 types of sites in the Summer Food Service Program: open and restricted open, closed enrolled, and camps. At an open site, you may serve up to 2 meals per day, as long as the 2 meals are not lunch and supper. An open site serves meals to any child 18 years and under and is located in an area in which at least 50% of the children are from households that would be eligible for free or reduced price school meals under the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. So this means any child under the age of 18 and under can be served. So this can be children visiting from out of town or from outside your school district. So there's 2 types of open sites. There's open and restricted open. So an open site has no restrictions. It's open to the community at large on a first-come, first-served basis, serving all children 18 and under at no charge. A restricted open site is a site which is initially open to the whole community, but at which the sponsor restricts or limits attendance for reasons of security, safety, or control. All open sites must be easy for children to access, have clear signage or enough staff to direct the children to the meal service location. If there is an enrolled program happening at the school, such as summer school, at a restricted open site, you still have to ensure that children from the community are given fair and equal access. To qualify a site as open, you can use either SED school data or U.S. Census data. To use school data, sponsors can refer to SED's area eligible list to qualify open sites, which is available on our website. This list includes all of the school buildings in each county that have a population in which at least 50% of the children are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. Each school has an LEA code, which sponsors will list on the new site information sheet to document site eligibility. To use census data, you can look up your site's address on the Capacity Builder map, which is also available on our website, to see if your site is located in a needy area. If so, you would list the census block code on the new site information sheet to qualify that site. The Capacity Builder is a great tool to help you find other qualifying sites in your area as well. For open sites, once you have established your site's eligibility, it is good for 5 years. Open site eligibility can be updated before the 5 years are up, but cannot be used retroactively. If you need assistance determining eligibility for your site, please contact our office. Here is where the area eligibility list is located on our website. Also note that school buildings participating in the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP, and have an identified student percentage, or ISP, of 31.25% or greater have been included on this list. Site signage. It is very important that all sites have clear signage so that children know where they can receive free meals. If the meal service is inside a building, be sure to have signage outside and inside with arrows and directions on where to go. Sometimes our reviewers find it hard to locate a meal service quickly and easily. It helps to have large, identifiable signs directing everyone to the meal service. Free banners can be ordered from SED for all new open sites. Make sure to hang on to your banners and reuse them each year. Media release. The location of the site and the availability of free meals to children must be publicly announced in your community. The sponsor must submit a media release to the local media outlets serving the areas where the sites are located. Make sure this and all program materials include the USDA non-discrimination statement and complaint procedures. A system-generated media release that will include all of your site information and the non-discrimination statement will be available on your profile page in CNMS. Save a copy of the media release and documentation that it was sent to the local media outlet you plan to draw your attendance from for SED to review. If you see the published copy, save that as well. On our website, you will find free outreach resources that will help sponsors and sites create customized outreach materials such as flyers, letters to parents, and press releases that will help the community learn about the Summer Food Service Program and where children can receive free meals in the summer. School food authorities are required to coordinate with nonprofit and government entities operating the SFSP in the district on developing and distributing summer food outreach materials. So be sure to send your site information to local school districts to share with their students. You should also post flyers or posters on community boards, websites, libraries, or town parks. It's always a good idea to also have activities going on at your sites as well to help get kids in and boost participation. The next type of site we're going to talk about is closed enrolled sites. Closed enrolled sites serve an identified group of children through 18 years of age who are in an enrolled program as opposed to the community at large. Sponsors must provide equal access for all children. The enrolled programming must be conducted by either a school or a nonprofit organization. If you have only mandatory summer school at a site, it does not qualify as a closed enrolled site for the SFSP. For-profit sites may not participate. Sponsor site and organization, the site and organization receiving the meals must be nonprofit. Closed enrolled sites may claim up to 2 meals a day. There are 2 types of closed enrolled sites. The sponsor will determine eligibility differently depending on whether the site is in a needy area or a non-needy area. Pending waiver approval from the national office, closed enrolled sites in a needy area are qualified the same as for open sites by using either SED's eligibility data or census data from USDA's Capacity Builder and documenting either the school's LEA code or the census block code on the new site information sheet. Eligibility for closed enrolled sites are good for only 1 year. Keep in mind, if you're operating a closed enrolled site in a needy area, ask yourself if you can open the site to the public in order to do the most good for your community. If a site does not qualify using SED data or census data, then the sponsor must demonstrate that at least 50% of the enrolled children at the site are eligible for free or reduced priced school meals under the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. You may collect household income applications or use school certification. There is a parent letter that must accompany the income application, which explains the program to families. Families can report either their annual income or they may be categorically eligible if they report a case number for benefits received under SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR. We will go into more detail on processing income applications later in the presentation. School certification is obtained by contacting the school district that the enrolled children attend and finding out if they are eligible for free or reduced school meals. There must be at least 50% income-eligible children enrolled at the site at all times, and all eligibility documentation must be kept confidential. Shortly after your program begins, you must notify SED of the number of children enrolled in your program and the number of children eligible for free or reduced school meals. Again, closed enrolled site eligibility is good for only 1 year, and as always, sponsors must ensure integrity in determining and maintaining site eligibility. Campsites. Campsites can be operated by nonprofit organizations that have a 501c and articles of incorporation. Documentation of nonprofit status must be submitted to SED. Campsites are required to have a valid camp permit from the local Department of Health. The permit must be in the sponsoring Summer Food Service Programs organization's name, or if you are a school, a nonprofit organization. It cannot be in an individual's name. Once the camp permit has been issued, a copy of it must be sent in to our office. If we do not receive a copy of the camp permit, CNMS will not show your site or allow you to submit for reimbursement. You are also only able to claim meals for the days stated on your camp permit. Only eligible children who are enrolled in a residential or non-residential camp can participate in the Summer Food Service Program. For non-residential camps, only meals served during the program's timeframes qualify for reimbursement. For example, if a non-residential camp occurs from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., any meals served prior to or after that time frame cannot be claimed for reimbursement. Children who are not enrolled in a residential or non-residential camp cannot be included in your enrollment and eligible numbers that you submit to SED. Sponsors must maintain rosters on site that should include each camper's name as stated on their application, their full address, name of parent or guardian, whether or not they are an overnight or a daytime camper, and their eligibility code. Only meals served to eligible children can be claimed for reimbursement. Camps may claim up to 3 meals a day plus a 4th meal supplement. To establish a child's eligibility for a campsite is the same as for closed enrolled in a non-needy area. Sponsors can use the individual income applications, where families report their income or a case number to be categorically eligible, or obtain school certification by submitting a roster of the enrolled children to the school district they attend, and the schools can certify if they are eligible for free or reduced school meals. Keep in mind that camps cannot use area eligibility data to establish eligibility, which is the SED school data or census data. Eligibility for camps is good for 1 year. As discussed previously, the parent letter must accompany the income application. Also, if a child has been denied income eligibility, meaning they do not meet the income guidelines, a notification letter must be sent to the parents letting them know their child does not qualify. Sponsors must update CNMS with their sessions eligibility by the following dates. For sessions beginning on or before July 19th, no later than July 24th. For sessions beginning on or after July 20th, no later than 5 calendar days from the start date. Sponsors can update SED with their session enrollment eligible numbers through the CNMS renewal page or by emailing the SFSP mailbox at cnsfsp@nysed.gov. These deadlines are the same every year. It is the sponsor's responsibility to update CNMS or SED with your enrollment and eligibility. Please note, these deadlines do not apply to rosters. Camps should have complete rosters of all attending children at the start of each session. The deadline dates will be available to you on your CNMS profile page. Campsites often are serving both eligible children and ineligible children at the same time. Remember, only income eligible children can be claimed for reimbursement, so there must be a system in place to ensure only the meals served to eligible children are claimed for reimbursement. There are a couple different methods that sites can use. They can use a coded roster, like shown on the slide, and then get a count of the number of meals served to income eligible children. Or, if just obtaining a count of all children served, use a meal allocation factor to determine the number of meals that may be claimed for reimbursement. SED has available on our website Attachment 17, which calculates a meal allocation factor based on your number of enrolled and eligible children, which can be applied to your total meal count. If camps serving both income eligible and income ineligible children choose not to use either of these methods, they must have their method approved by SED. All camps serving both income eligible and income ineligible children must also determine a cost allocation factor to apply to its actual operating costs. Attachment 17 can be used for this purpose as well. Universities and colleges often host summer programs for children and are eligible to operate in the SFSP. These operate a little differently since they normally have to use the campus dining services. The payment process is also a little different. For the SUNY Summer Food Service Program payment process, the college's finance department submits information to the Child Nutrition Reimbursement Department. Oftentimes, the reimbursement has a designated place to go, which may not be the actual office of those running the program. Be sure to verify that the reimbursement will be going to the correct location. As I said, because your summer food service program is occurring on a college campus, you'll presumably be using your on-campus dining provider. Another option would be to contract with an outside management company, which we rarely see. They generally operate as either closed enrolled or a campsite and have to obtain individual eligibility for each student. Any food service management contract must be submitted to SED before your application can be approved. The deadline for submission is June 1st. If using campus dining, the on-campus dining provider agreement must include the price per meal, number of meals, type of meal served, dates of operation, and signatures from both a representative from the college and the dining provider. The contract should not contain the price per day. These agreements must be submitted on the college's letterhead. You will not be able to submit your claim for reimbursement until all contracts or agreements have been received and approved by SED. Another type of site I just wanted to mention that may also operate is a migrant site. Migrant site eligibility is based upon a determination that the site predominantly serves children of migrant workers. The sites operate like area-eligible open or restricted open sites and are reimbursed for meals served to all attending children. To confirm migrant status, sponsors must submit information obtained from a migrant organization that certifies that the site serves a majority of children of migrant workers. Contact SED to be put in contact with your local migrant center. As a reminder, this is our website, our Child Nutrition Knowledge Center, and in the top right corner you can see CNMS is our Child Nutrition Management System. That's where you will go in and access your profile and submit claims for reimbursement. And as I stated the other day, you have that password application in your application packet. So once we have received that back from you with your application, we can get you set up to go online. And then this is just a snapshot again of what it's going to look like when you get into CNMS. You'll have all your contact information and all your meal service information right there for you to go in and change your times or add field trips. Okay, so now we're going to talk about processing the income applications. As we said, income applications may be used to qualify children for closed enrolled sites in a non-needy area or campsites. Sponsors who are obtaining individual income applications must have an efficient system for processing applications correctly and in a timely manner, typically within 10 days of receipt. It's important that as each application is processed, the person responsible is making a determination at the bottom of the application, free or denied, and signing and dating it. The parent letter must be sent out to families with the income application. Rosters for the summer food service program must be in order and include all enrolled children. The rosters should be coded to indicate which children are eligible. The applications must be maintained in the same order as the roster. Sponsors must use the current income guidelines to establish eligibility of each child. They do change annually. So applications being processed that are dated after July 1st, make sure you're using the 2019-2020 income guidelines. Sponsors must initial and date any changes or additions that they make on the application. A denial letter must be sent to the family if the child does not qualify as income eligible. Eligibility documentation is confidential. You must keep it in a safe place. It must be available for review by SED on site and be easily attainable. Meals may be disallowed if documentation is not readily available on site. Income eligibility is considered current and valid until the last day of the month in which the form was dated 1 year earlier. For example, if it's dated May 11th, 2018, it is good from May 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2019. Please note that repeat application error findings can lead to fiscal sanctions or even the termination of your program. Refer to processing income eligibility forms in the guidance manual. It is important to take note that there are restrictions in place on disclosing information from an income eligibility form without parental consent. If such information is improperly released, criminal penalties may be instated. All summer food service program sponsors should make themselves aware of how to handle requests for release of this information. It may be helpful to refer to the eligibility manual for school meals for guidance and the disclosure chart displaying circumstances of appropriately releasing income eligibility information. If a request for information is not authorized, then the release can always be made with informed consent by the parent or guardian. If any sponsor operating the SFSP is having trouble getting information from schools about eligibility of children, the schools can be directed to this information. The disclosure chart shows that prior notice and consent is not required. So these are the income eligibility guidelines. So based on the family's application, if they qualify for free or reduced lunch in the National School Lunch Program, then they are eligible for free meals in the Summer Food Service Program. The parent letter must only include the reduced scale. You can find the parent letter at the top of your SFSP profile page or on our website under Determining Eligibility and Site Type. The text can be copied and pasted onto the sponsor's agency letterhead, and the necessary sponsor information can be added. Income applications must be filled out completely in order to be processed. Some of the common mistakes we typically see include applications with a missing Social Security number. A Social Security number must be listed or check the box, or they should check the box available stating that they do not have one. This is only relevant if an application is completed using household income. Another mistake is an incorrect case number. Oftentimes, families mistakenly put down their benefits card number or something else as their case number. Sometimes there is a missing parent or a guardian signature. Often, frequency of income is not included. If it is not included, you must always assume it is weekly. Under any of these circumstances, you may contact the family to obtain missing information. Any last-minute changes or additions must be initialed and dated on the application. If you are unable to retrieve any of the missing information, the application is then considered incomplete and cannot be processed. Now we're going to talk about meal service.
Be sure that your meal service times are always displayed accurately in CNMS. If meal times vary by day during the week, the system can accommodate that information. If a meal time needs to be changed for any unplanned incident, inform SED by phone, fax, or email as soon as possible. You are expected to serve all meals at the meal service times approved by SED. For example, if you are approved to serve breakfast at 9 a.m., it is expected that the food is cooked and ready to be served at that designated time. The children should also be there and ready to be served the meal at 9 a.m. as well. Keep in mind that you must notify SED within 48 hours of any scheduled field trips. For open and closed enrolled sites, you will need to decide which meals you will be serving. Notice lunch and supper are not an option. You may get reimbursed for up to 2 meals per day in any of these combinations. Only residential camps and migrant sites may claim for 3 meals plus a 4th meal supplement. Depending on your population of children, breakfast can be served at noon and lunch and supper later. You must serve breakfast before a lunch meal. These are the only allowable approved meal service styles. Buffet style is not an option. Tray line is the easiest way to get an accurate meal count at the point of service. The point of service is the point at which the child receives a complete meal. The serving line is ready to go at your approved meal service time. You can also do preset table settings, pre-plating, or family style. Family style means you are having the children eat like they would at home. Enough food is placed on the table for all children to have the required portion size of each component. Some amount of each component is on each child's plate. When full portion is not initially served to the child, a supervising adult actively encourages the child to take the full portion. Your goal as a sponsor is to provide nutritious meals to the children in a comfortable environment at the same time every day so the children know what to expect. Meals are prepared and ready to be served at the approved meal service times. Again, if you need to change your meal service times, SED must be notified by 2 p.m. the day prior to the change. There should always be a supervising adult ensuring all children are eating a complete meal as part of a congregate and organized meal service. There must always be a trained person obtaining a point of service meal count at each point of service. Remember, your daily meal count records are your basis for an accurate claim for reimbursement. On-site and at the admin review, SED will look to see that your daily meal counts are consistent with your production records and menus. They should show a clear picture of how your program is in compliance and your claims are accurate. Meals must be consumed on-site in order to be eligible for reimbursement. Failure to meet this congregate feeding requirement will result in the disallowance of meals and may lead to a determination of serious deficiency of the sponsor's operation of the program. Congregate feeding creates less confusion and meal counts are obtained more accurately, ensures the meal service is meeting meal pattern requirements for serving sizes and meal components, ensures food safety regulations are met, and ensures an organized meal service is in place. Take your meal count at each point of service. A point of service may be at the end of a tray line after the child has received all of the components. Accurate meal counts begin with properly trained staff. Your site must have systems in place to ensure everyone knows how to count complete reimbursable meals. Attachments 18, 20, and 21 in the SED attachment manual on our website are sample meal count forms. You may choose to use any one at your site. Daily meal count sheets are required. Procurement. All sponsors will need to ensure that goods and services are properly procured. This is a federal regulation when receiving and using federal funds. You must have written procurement policies and procedures, and these need to be specific to the sponsor's actual practices. The sponsor will maintain and include the following documents with its procurement records: specifications that include the description of each item or service purchased, and demonstration that the lowest responsible bidder was chosen. The purpose is to create free and open competition, resulting in receiving the best quality goods and services from the most responsible bidder at the lowest price. There are two types of procurement, informal and formal. Informal procurements are used when the total purchase is under the simplified threshold of $250,000. Formal procurement methods occur when a purchase is over the $250,000 threshold. This is the federal threshold. Your organization may have stricter guidance. There are two types of formal procurement: invitation for bid and request for proposal. Invitation for bid, you are soliciting bids for a specific item and the lowest responsible bidder is selected. For request for proposal, you are requesting proposals from vendors on how they can solve a need you have. Both methods require they be publicly advertised. Informal purchases are purchases between $10,000 and $250,000. You may use the small purchase form located on our website under the procurement heading to document who you contacted and the prices you received. You must maintain the small purchase form with your files. SED will ask for procurement documentation at your administrative review. Micro purchases are purchases under $10,000 which do not require obtaining competitive bids if you determine the price to be paid is fair and reasonable. However, the following apply to micro purchases. The use of micro purchases must be written into your procurement policy. Any micro purchases must meet the equitable distribution requirement, meaning purchases cannot be made with the same vendor for every purchase and unfairly restrict competition. You must alternate among multiple vendors. You must be able to document how you determined a micro purchase price was fair and reasonable and the basis for that determination. Purchases cannot be split in order to avoid another procurement method. SFAs are required to purchase to the maximum extent practicable domestic commodities or products. This Buy American provision supports the mission of the Child Nutrition Program, which is to serve children nutritious meals and support American agriculture. It is the procurement standard SFAs must comply with when purchasing commercial food products served in the school meals programs. A domestic commodity or product is an agricultural commodity that is produced in the U.S. and a food product that is processed in the U.S., substantially using agricultural commodities produced in the U.S. Implementation of the Buy American provision should be done by including Buy American in the documented procurement procedures, state agency prototype documents, and all procurement solicitation and contracts, including domestic requirements in bid specifications, contract monitoring, and verifying costs and availability of domestic and non-domestic foods. When procurement procedures are needed, a food specification will need to be developed. A food specification is a detailed or specific list of desired characteristics of a food product. Consider the product's style, size, count, container, and packaging medium. Make sure all items you are buying are allowable to the Summer Food Service Program. In addition, consider requesting local foods in your specification. Buying seasonally and locally can help keep your food costs lower. You should provide the vendors with clear specifications for each food item ordered, request specifics like grade A apples, and clearly state what would be acceptable and unacceptable. For example, strawberries without blemishes, mold, etc. If it is in your contract, you can always return unacceptable items upon delivery, inspection, and not be charged for them. You should also include or adapt the food specification criteria into your invitation for bid. Upon delivery of the order, make sure you're checking the food to make sure it meets the specifications and is in good condition. As a sponsor, you will need to determine the type of sites you are going to operate and your meal preparation options. There are 3 meal preparation options. Sponsor meal preparation, where the sponsor prepares meals at each site location or at a central kitchen. Purchasing meals from schools, sponsor may enter into a non-competitive agreement and purchase meals from a school food authority, or purchasing meals from a food service management company. Sponsors may competitively solicit and award a contract with a food service management company or with a school to obtain their meals. First, we will discuss sponsor-operated meal preparation and then obtaining meals from an SFA or food service management company. Sponsor-operated meal preparation, this type of meal prep is for sponsors that prepare their own meals, hire their own staff, and carry workers' compensation coverage for those employees. These are the steps that will take you through the process of participating in the Summer Food Service Program as a self-prep sponsor. There are a lot of things to consider when planning your menu. All non-SFA sponsors are required to follow the Summer Food Service Program meal pattern, which is attachment 4 in the Administrative Manual. Offer versus serve can also be implemented by sponsors. SFAs have the option to continue to use the National School Lunch Meal Pattern, but remember, you must still follow all of the same requirements as you follow during the school year. SFAs may implement offer versus serve as well. Keep in mind your child's preferences, or your children's preferences. You may need to make modifications to your menus once you see what the children like and dislike. Be sure to offer a variety of colorful fruits and veggies. Try to use locally grown fruits and vegetables. They will be fresh and taste better. If you have current inventory, think about what you can use. Will you be transporting meals? Plan meals that can easily travel. Things to consider with staffing. Do you have enough staff to prepare these meals, and what are the capabilities of your staff? Do you have the capacity to store the food items you want to order? Have a plan in place to adhere to all food safety requirements. There are 4 components in the Summer Food Service Program meal pattern. All 4 components must be served to each child that will be claimed to reimbursement. Fruits and vegetables are considered one component, but at lunch and supper, 2 different types must be offered. Notice milk, fruit, vegetable, and grains are required for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Lunch and supper must contain a meat or meat alternate. Snack can be any 2 components as long as they are not the same. For example, you cannot have orange slices and orange juice. All components must be offered in the full serving size, and those taken must meet required minimum portion sizes. Pending waiver approval from the national office, SFSP sponsors will be allowed to use the Summer Food Service Program meal pattern to implement offer versus serve. Offer versus serve may be implemented at breakfast, lunch, or supper, but not snack. Children get to choose which components to decline. This helps decrease food costs and waste. You can choose offer versus serve option on the new site information sheet. You can also refer to the Administrative Guidance Manual for more information. Your SFSP representative will be able to give you more guidance throughout the application process and at the new program visit. Beginning and ending inventories need to be maintained. Even if you are starting with 0 inventory, be sure to have that documentation for your records. If there is ending inventory, the sponsor must calculate the dollar value of those items and subtract them from the final SFSP food cost. You can refer to attachment 16 in the NYSED attachments manual. You must maintain daily production records for every meal type served. A production record is a working document that should be in the meal preparation area and maintained by the person preparing meals. It should reflect that all components in the proper portion sizes are being prepared and offered to children. This is an example of a production record. There is a prototype in the Administrative Guidance Manual. A good way to set it up is to always list the required components for each meal in the first column, so whoever is completing it can be sure that the meal is meeting meal pattern requirements. The majority can be completed prior to the meal service. The last 3 columns will need to be completed as the meal service preparation and meal service is occurring. The column labeled number of servings prepared is where your staff preparing the meal will write the number of portions they prepare for each meal service. Your staff should be familiar with portion sizes, for example, using standard slotted spoons or scoops, etc. After the meal service, your staff will enter the number of meals served and the number of leftovers. Be sure to include any substitutions. You should also be documenting on your production records the number of meals served to any program adults and any meals served to any non-program adults. Production records are a useful tool for planning how much you should prepare for certain items in the future. They must be readily available for SCD to review when we visit your site. Sponsors are required to make substitutions or modifications to the meal pattern for any participants with disabilities who are unable to consume regular meals. Substitutions must be supported by a medical statement signed by a licensed physician or licensed healthcare professional who is authorized to write medical prescriptions under state law. Sponsors must maintain accurate records which justify all costs and meals claimed in the summer food service program. Cost documentations include all receipts, invoices, canceled checks, payroll documentation, and bank statements. If you are purchasing additional food that are not part of the meal pattern or other items such as arts and crafts, you must identify them as unallowable costs on your invoices or receipts so that these costs can be deducted from your final summer food service program costs. This section is for sponsors who are not preparing their own meals. Sponsors have two choices for procuring meals. You can either enter into an agreement to purchase meals from a school food authority. SCD highly encourages you to obtain meals using this method, or you can purchase meals from another source. The Buy American requirement also applies to SFAs procuring meals from vendors, so include that provision in your specifications. Contracting with the school food authority is the method SCD encourages because there are easier procurement procedures. The schools already know and follow the USDA meal pattern requirements. Schools are familiar with children's preferences. They have the proper facilities and permits. They are familiar with food safety practices and HACCP. Schools are also familiar with cooking for large groups and is a simpler contract. If there is an SFA you want to work with that has a food service management company contract for the school year, it must already include the SFSP language. Please contact our office for assistance as this could be a material change. A material change is a change made to a contract after the contract has been awarded that alters the terms and conditions of the contract, substantially enough that had other bidders known of these changes in advance, they may have bid differently and more competitively. Your second choice for procuring meals is to contract with a non-SFA, usually a food service management company. Anything that you spend SFSP funds on must be purchased according to the procurement procedures in 2 CFR Part 200. All organizations should have a written code of standards of conduct governing the performance of their employees engaged in the award and administration of contracts. No employee, officer, or agent of the organization should participate in the selection, award, or administration of a contract if a conflict of interest, real or apparent, would be involved. It is the sponsor's responsibility to ensure that applicable competitive procurement procedures are followed in contracting with any vendor. SCD recommends that all sponsors use the standard contract we provide you. However, any contract greater than $250,000, the sponsor must use the New York State agency contract. Sponsors may include a provision in their contract to allow the contract to be extended up to 4 times. This gives sponsors the ability to retain the same vendor for a total of 5 years before going out to bid again. The extension provision is attachment E in the contract SCD provides. While contract renewals are permitted, the sponsor must understand that it is not required to renew the contract for an additional year or more, and you should do so only after careful evaluation of the food service management company's performance and a determination that the renewal will benefit the sponsor. A copy of the contract procedures were included in your application, so you should have received them if you're going to contract. All signed contracts and extensions must be submitted to SCD with your application. You must have your contract approved in CNMS to generate your site on the Site Mapper. You will want to advertise your contract to increase interest and promote competition. Place your ad in the local newspaper having the highest general circulation. Formal bids have specific criteria to follow regarding advertising and opening of sealed bids. These are: the advertisement must be published at least 14 days prior to the bid opening. Bids must be received in an original sealed envelope and opened publicly. Please notify SCD for any contracts equal to or greater than the $250,000 threshold. SCD must be in attendance at the sealed bid opening. Please use this method if there is a possibility you will reach $250,000. The sponsor must provide an affidavit of publication from the publishing company that runs the ad and provide a copy of the published bid advertisement to SCD. SCD will accept a photocopy of the ad or the actual clipping from the newspaper. This affidavit of publication must include the date or dates the advertisement was published, and at least one time is adequate. Award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, and responsible means a bid that meets all material requirements of the solicitation. If you do not choose the lowest price, you must document or have clear documentation of why not. The sponsor must ensure they are not entering into a contract with a debarred contractor. To find out if a contractor is debarred, you can go to www.sam.gov. Managing the contract. Train your staff receiving the procured goods or service how to determine if what you received was what you requested. Make sure you're comparing the product to the specifications and the purchase order. Certain food products should be temped upon receiving. Ensure your organization is monitoring the performance of the vendor. Sponsors occasionally contact SCD with complaints about their vendor. For example, they are unhappy with the way items are packaged or changes to the menu. However, that is between the sponsor and the vendor and may be a breach of contract. Sponsors should document any issues they are encountering with their vendor and refer to them when renewing and negotiating. Contract monitoring is important because it ensures that the vendor is in compliance with the sponsor's agreement with the state agency to operate the program in accordance with program regulations. The vendor is not being overpaid for work performed nor paid for work never performed, is providing nutritious meals to children, and the food service management company is adhering to their contract, and the sponsor gets what it paid for. There are specific program management responsibilities that sponsors may not contract out to a vendor or food service management company. These duties listed here are the sponsoring organization's duties. The vendor's role is to prepare and deliver meals. The sponsor is responsible for ensuring that the vendor is in compliance with the signed contract and for seeing that the food service operation meets all requirements specified in the sponsor agreement they signed with SCD. Vendors should have your contact information in case meal deliveries will not be on schedule. Make sure you have a plan for this. The sponsor should have the vendor's contact information as well. Notify SCD of any changes in participation and make the changes online. This is the recommended way to make changes because we receive it promptly. Sponsors should train staff to check meals and delivery receipts for accuracy when meals are delivered. Check for temp, quality, quantity, etc. Have a system to maintain these delivery receipts and make sure staff are signing them. Use the vendors or food service management company's delivery receipts to cross-check invoices prior to making payments to the vendor. SCD and the Department of Health does review vendor facilities to ensure compliance with sanitary standards as well as reviewing their SFSP records. Thank you for attending our webinars for potential new sponsors. If you would like more information about the program and how it works, please come to one of our 7 in-person trainings throughout the state. Just as a reminder, if you are not an SFA in the National School Lunch Program, we will be contacting you to schedule the new program visit, which is conducted at your site. If you have organization-specific questions, please contact your assigned representative in the office. The Q&A today will just deal with general program questions. So now we're going to take a brief pause to go over some of the questions, and we will start to answer them soon.